Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Last night Hearthstone developers held an Ask Me Anything session on Twitter, so there was Matt Loddon, Songbird, Celestalon, Alec Gerrico, Chucky and Jogging McIntyre, so 6 developers answering a bunch of community questions. This is something that Ixar used to do. Ixar is no longer present in the Hearthstone team, so other developers are now picking up this practice. And I'm always a little bit torn when I see this, because on the other hand, I really want to know what's going on with Hearthstone. I want to know what they're thinking about when they're developing Hearthstone, when they're tuning things. And on the other hand, every time Ixar opened his mouth about what his actual design philosophy is, what are the actual processes being used at the team, I was shocked. I was shocked every single time. Like, how is this an indie company? Is this supposed to be a big company? Because I would expect the process to be very scientific. I mean, toy business is no child's play. So a lot of math, a lot of simulation, a lot of rigorous testing, seeing like the entirety of the set, entirety of the standard year, entirety of the 2-year standard period, designing that each part of them is good, designing so that the entirety is going to be good. Just so many aspects to take into account, and that is not how Hearthstone is designed, as we're going to see in the very near future. There are some bits and pieces of some interesting, exciting new information, and then there's those design processes that I will talk about in this video that, yeah, I don't even know. But first of all, let's start with some easier ones. Was there any conscious effort to lower power level with this rotation? And Chucky answered, not to the degree of let's print weaker cards, but there was some effort to not support powerful strategies from last year. Questlines comes to mind. Alright, well, that's already kind of one thing, in that the decision not to support powerful strategies from last year seems to be a bit made on ad hoc basis instead of having everything planned out, but we'll ignore that for now. And instead we'll have some good news about cosmetics. Since Battlegrounds have their own reward track now, will the Tavern Pass and pre-order bundles include more items designed for traditional Hearthstone? And Celestalon replies, yes. Since Battlegrounds has its own reward track, we'll be replacing Battlegrounds content on the main reward track with more constructed content starting with next expansion. So more constructed content in the reward track starting next expansion, that's a piece of good news. And that's not all. Another question, are you going to add more diamond cards and expansion coins for older sets in the near future? And Celestalon is answering yes, several more wild diamond cards are coming. Still several months away, but coming. Alright, that's not bad. And this one doesn't look too bad either. What set would you say has been your most enjoyable to work on over the last couple of years? And Celestalon, personally, the next one, tease. Coupled with this response, is it too late to squeeze Uther of the Ebon Blade into next year's core set? I think he and the Jailer would get along well. And Celestalon answers, no, but... Alright, I take this as Death Knights coming in the last expansion of the year, confirmed. You can't change my mind. That is set in stone. Death Knights are coming. Am I reading too much into this? Surely I am not. It's not possible. Death Knights. Death Knights are coming. And Hearthstone has also been getting a lot of new features lately. I mean, this is a pretty interesting exchange actually. With the current year approaching its end, do you feel the quality of life approach Ixar talked about has been a success? Is the team still focused on quality of life improvements for the next year, or have there been discussions about new game modes? And Matt London answered, we're always investing resources into quality of life. Celestalon can speak to some of the huge improvements made this year on the features side. For modes who are working on exciting new things, new ways to play Hearthstone, the return of solo content, alright, and more, so stay tuned. And then Celestalon talking about features, upgrade to Golden, no quest credit confirmation, play from mini-hand, multi-favorite card packs, overcapped decks, in-game reporting, multi-favorite hero skins, recently completed achievements, recent opponents on friends list, artist credit expansion, deck codes in chat, and tons more. So yeah, they have added quite a few features into Hearthstone, but then again, quality of life is more than just features. And there was one question that actually got the most likes out of any question that was asked, and it is this one. Are you aware that Hearthstone is a game that runs poorly on many third-world cell phones? Do you have plans to change something about this? I could be wrong, but I feel like Hearthstone loses a lot of users with the lack of understanding of reality in other countries. I've received hundreds of messages over my years of streaming from people dropping Hearthstone because it runs poorly. Hearthstone could have a lot to gain by being more accessible. Notably, this went unanswered. And yeah, that is a pretty huge problem. Hearthstone lately has had a lot of bugs, and I'm talking about game-breaking bugs, bugs that prevent people from logging into the game, bugs that prevent people from loading maps, bugs that disconnect you, causing you to lose games, bugs that make animations very, very slow. It's just Hearthstone seemingly has a lot of issues with client stability and client performance, and that would also be a major part of that quality of life. And they're talking about features, and okay, those features are nice, but getting that client to run reliably and smoothly would be even bigger quality of life improvement. I'm not surprised that they didn't answer this one, because if they don't have anything in the pipeline, if there's no fixes coming, then they really don't have anything to gain by answering this. But this is a real thing and a real issue for the game. We also got a bit of teasing about the miniset. Will this miniset help Paladin and Warrior to come back into the meta? And Cora answered, Paladin has 2 cards that are pretty fun, and Warrior has 1 that's a bit spicy. Paladin and Warrior have some deficits that we're working on fixing. I don't want to see them at the bottom of the tier list for much longer. Garrosh and Uther deserve better. And another question about the miniset, are there any relics in the miniset? No relics in the miniset, but I will say I'm really happy with where relics landed, and I'd be open to doing them again in the future. Mechanics like Jades and relics are really easy to overdo, but when they're done carefully, I think the gameplay is fun. And yeah, I have to say that I agree that it's going to be a good call not to print another relic in the miniset. Initially I thought that hey, this relic package desperately needs a 4th, but after they buffed the relics, then it became a situation where if they add a 4th and they keep the buffs, then the relic package is just going to be too good. So there were 2 options that they had from the launch of Castle Nathria. Either they will have to buff the relic package, or they will have to print a 4th relic, and they chose to went with the buff path, and I'm fine with that. But then we start to get to the points where they're starting to reveal stuff about their process, and these reveals have me aghast at least. Why is Sylvanas Infused 7? Is 6 broken and 8 too weak? Is there a specific flavor reason? Just seems kind of random. We started her at 10, but that was definitely too high. Kept lowering until we found a sweet spot. 6 probably isn't broken, but maybe 5 is. Hard to say for sure. Convoke was too strong at 10 because the spell pool is created, but 10 is a nice round number for a puzzle box. And Jackie chimes in, we basically just playtest a bunch of different numbers and people keep going, this feels a bit too good or this feels bad, and then eventually it passes the vibe check. And I mean, we're talking about a game that makes hundreds of millions of dollars. This is type of game that, I mean, the resources available for a game with such income, they're tremendous. I would expect this to be heavily simulation-based, math-based, not a vibe check-based development. But overall, we're starting to get the real picture that Hearthstone development, it's really considered by the developers to be an art and not a science. And that's something that I probably would have expected from an indie company. But from a major company, I would really expect a very science-based development process. And it just keeps getting worse from here. Do balance patches before minisets ever affect any final tweaking on those minisets? And Jack answers not too much. We generally finalize miniset balance shortly after expansion launch. We have some room to make final adjustments if a later balance patch would cause something to be way off. Yeah, that finalization point. Okay, I'm a little worried. And then there's this question. How do you feel about the power level of the infused cards, and particularly neutral infused cards outside of the Naturus and the 9-mana minion? The 5-mana infused 5 to deal 5 and 7-mana infused 3 to gain their stats seem significantly lower power level than others. Cora, I'm generally pretty pleased with where Infused landed, with a couple of exceptions. Sinfield Golem is quite weak, but we sort of knew that before it was released. Cards like Priest of the Deceased and Stoneborn Accuser are simple foundational infused pieces, but don't see much play. Don't see any play, really. I think overall Infused is actually more consistent than I thought it would be, and the play rate is pretty good even when you take the Naturus out of the equation. Cards like Famished Fool and Insatiable Devourer seeing play is great. I didn't really expect Devourer to be good. So, like, these just make me question their design and their testing process so much. Like, hey, Infused is more consistent. I mean, didn't you simulate how consistent it's going to be? I didn't expect Devourer to be good. Did you test it? Although I guess they didn't test Devour because of this. Which card you had most certain would fail? Most reasons probably Insatiable Devourer. We actually swapped Insatiable Devourer's effect over to Sire Denatrius pretty late in development. And they made this new Devourer design in the 11th hour. Thought it would be probably too expensive to work, so pleasantly surprised. So they didn't have much time to test the Devourer, and they actually had 2 Sire Denatriuses. There was another response to this which added that the Devourer design started the damage from 1 and didn't have lifesteal. But considering how often Sire Denatrius just ends games, like, they actually had the ability to put 2 copies of Sire Denatrius into your deck. 2 copies of Sire Denatrius into your deck until pretty late in the development. Oh boy. And finally, here's the grand finale. What was thought process behind the secret rogue cards in Nathria? That is a question that I have been pondering as well. And Cora answers, honestly, this secret rogue iteration is a bit of a miss. Yeah, I mean, you missed some, okay? If I could go back in time and change something about Nathria, I probably wouldn't do secret mage and secret rogue, even though secrets are a thematic fit for the set. It's especially difficult to design rogue secrets in a format where there aren't any, because you pretty much need to take all 3 auto-includes, which limits how unique they can be. But then, follow-up question, couldn't you just have put secrets from Ashes or Kobolds into Core, so you didn't have to make 3 rogue secrets for Nathria? And Cora's response, yes, but we didn't know Nathria would be the second set of the year when we made Core. That's the most shocking statement about Hearthstone design process that I have seen this year. At the time we didn't anticipate doing a secret archetype, and we probably just should have followed through on that. The core set changes every year. Core set gives you the basic foundational blocks that then the expansions can build upon. And if at the start of the year you release the core set, and you lock that core set before you know what you're going to be releasing in the expansions that year, how can that core set ever support those expansions? I mean, this is like Magic people with background in Magic the Gathering, they are expecting Hearthstone team to work 2 to 3 years in advance. So they would be able to fully test complete standard metagames. So they would have the core set, all the expansions, they would know everything about every single standard metagame that's going to happen. And the reality is that Hearthstone design team does not even know. They do not even know when they release the year's core set what sets that core set is supposed to be supporting. I mean, this is like, when I see these Ask Me Anything sessions, I always hope that, hey, we're going to get some insights. But every time we get some insights into how they actually work, I wish we didn't. But yeah, that's something to ponder. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.